Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday evening to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there. Have had yourselves a great day and a great weekend as we pretty much near the end of it. It just seems like it just flew on by. So we're to the end of another weekend, about to start another work week. But I hope you guys are doing well out there. I know it's been a pretty chill, lazy Sunday afternoon and evening for me and my family. It took me a little hour nap. Sometimes I just get super tired. I'm a big fan of naps, but pretty much everybody else I know is not a fan of naps. But I certainly love me a good nap. But just took one, and then I was woken up by my cat, which is behind me. She is you probably can't see her because she's laying on a gray blanket, and the blanket, and she is gray, so she kind of blends in with the blanket. But she is obsessed with me right now. She gets like that sometimes. She definitely favors me out of anybody in the entire family. This is our first cat that we got. We got 3 now. But enough of that. What we're going to talk about in this video is the tropics 1 and then the heat 2. I think it's going to be a pretty hot ending to July, maybe even getting into the first few days of August for most of the country. And trust me, I don't like talking about that just because I'm not a big hot weather fan, but it is what it is, and we'll figure it out. I know, I've had a couple people wondering, not in a while, but they wonder, hey, Mitch, are you ever going to drop a seasonal winter forecast? Things like that. Talk about things way out. I just don't do that on this channel, guys. And I'll be honest, if you look up the winter predictions for 2023, 2024, it probably has a ton of views on them videos. And honestly, people love watching those, but in my opinion, I just don't think there's much to back up any of that. Yeah, we can talk about there's an El Nino, La Nina until the cows come home, a neutral year, but really it's just a shot in the dark in my opinion. Even in like a La Nina that doesn't favor winter weather much in the south, you can still get a winter storm. And then we'll have an El Nino like we did kind of in 2015, and 2015 into 2016, and we didn't have much winter weather at all in the southeast, except really one big winter storm that only affected areas of the mid-Atlantic. So that doesn't mean a whole lot of anything. That's why I don't do that much on this channel. I don't even make hurricane prediction forecasts or anything like that. We just keep it right in front of us in the next 5 to 10 days. So with that being said, that's what we're going to talk about. If you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. You guys got anything that I can pray about, please put it in the comments below so I can do that and so others can do so too. Let's get rolling. Hopefully this video won't drag on too long, but we will get detailed. If you see up here on the top of your screen, that is Don. It's still a tropical storm, but by the time we wake up tomorrow morning, Don will pretty much be just about history. It is really losing anything left that it has as it really continues to move up into the North Atlantic, into those cold waters of the North Atlantic. We have this right here. This is 95L. It's not a depression, not a named storm or anything, but this is kind of what we've been talking about on and off over the last several days, and many others too. There was a time frame late Thursday into Friday where this had as much as a 70% chance to develop in the next 7 days. It has since, as of right now, dropped to a 40% risk. That could change in the next update or two, maybe at the 11 p.m. update. It might even go further down. But as of now, this has a 40% risk to develop, and it's just this blob of showers and storms. It looks exactly like what a tropical wave normally looks like. And then we're watching just this area way out here in the eastern tropical Atlantic, what we call the MDR, which means Main Development Region, as a pretty vigorous tropical wave comes off the coast of North Africa. And we'll see if it can try to develop. And we'll talk about all that in this video. So the National Hurricane Center update from 2 p.m. Is there an update from 5 p.m.? There is not. So from 2 p.m., this still has a 40% chance to develop in the next 7 days. Of course, you got Don up here, 60 mile per hour tropical storm continues to move northeast further out in the North Atlantic, will weaken. But like I said, this 40% chance to develop in the next 7 days, a 30% chance to develop in the next 48 hours. And you're thinking, Mitch, what does it mean by develop? That means into a tropical cyclone, which would be a tropical depression or a storm. So it still has a chance. If you don't know what the next name in the hurricane list is, it is Emily. That is our E name, Emily. So we move forward, and if we look at 95L, which is this area that has a 40% risk chance to develop in the next 7 days, as you can tell, this black color, which is obviously the color black, that stands for dry all levels, which is at the surface, the mid-levels, the low levels, the upper levels of the atmosphere. It's just very dry throughout. And you can tell this big blob of showers and storms is pretty much surrounded by the color black, which means it's very dry. The only area that has a little bit of moisture is kind of the moist air that it's leaving behind as it moves basically from east to west. And, this has moved from this area to this area. So, you look right down here, the blues stand for moist low to mid levels. And then the green is moist upper levels. So, it's leaving behind a little bit of moist air at the low to mid levels. But, that's typical with tropical waves after they move through an area. But it's moving through an area of dry air. And honestly, guys, I just don't see this developing. You see a little bit of tut action right in here. But, it's just a tropical wave. And I think here in the next day or so, this will bring just some showers and storms for the Lesser Antilles. I don't think it's going to do a whole lot out here. If we move way out further east, out in the eastern main development region, the tropical Atlantic, we will watch this area basically right into here. Okay, now you see convection showers and storms into here, and then you got action coming off the actual continent of Africa, North Africa. We're probably going to have multiple vortices right into this region. Eventually, you could have one dominant vortice and basically this belt of showers and storms, moisture. And if a dominant vortice could form, you could have the beginnings of some kind of tropical system. So this is the area we watch. This area, this entire region right into here. Even this area coming off that's still way over North Africa. Okay, so I meant to have this pulled down. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go over the GFS, which is the most aggressive model by far with this. It's the latest GFS that ran at 12Z lunchtime models, afternoon model. We'll take a look at then the GFS versus all the other model guys, which is the European, Canadian, Icon. Okay, so this is by far, and typically we only go 7 days out. Anything past 7 days is just whatever, basically. So we'll start this. We're actually going to go on and just start it for Wednesday afternoon. As you can tell, not a whole lot's going on, but you see the green, the yellow, and the reds right here. This indicates just showers and storms right in this main development region, this belt of moisture right into here. So we kind of call this the monsoon trough right down here. Basically, it's just a lot of moist air that can be going, but it's constantly being attacked by the dry air on top from the Saharan dust. Saharan dust. That word always trips me up for whatever reason. But basically, the dust from the Saharan desert is always chilling in this area right here, the northern portion of the tropical Atlantic, and this is always plaguing the northern portion of this moisture. But we'll continue to move this forward, and here it is. We'll take it out to Thursday morning, and we have a low right here, but it's everywhere. It's very, very broad. And basically what happens with the GFS, we go into Friday, we pretty much have an intact low pressure. Friday morning, we get into the weekend. Saturday morning, weak low pressure, 1014 millibar low pressure out here. And then as this number drops right into here, that indicates a strengthening system. So we're starting to get into the last couple days of July. We're getting into Sunday morning, and then look what it does. As it gets really close, flirts with the Lesser Antilles, okay, this thing really starts to strengthen. But remember, we're 204 hours out. Okay, we're about 8 to 9 days out. We're going to stop it right here. And I can tell you, though, if you're a big follower on social media, you follow a lot of weather accounts, you've probably already seen this plastered everywhere. This will continue to turn into almost a major hurricane and flirt with scraping the eastern coastline. But this is the GFS, guys. The GFS does these crazy scenarios all the time, and I'll stop it here. But it takes this tropical wave basically from right now till just about July 31st, August 1st, to make it all the way to the far eastern tip of the Caribbean islands and basically the Lesser Antilles. So we got to watch. what this does, but this is by far the most aggressive scenario. If you look at the European, we'll start it off the same time frame. Wednesday morning, all you basically watch is a blob of green here, which indicates like a tropical wave here. And this continues. This gets into Friday morning, Saturday morning, and maybe Saturday morning. This is when it's its strongest right here, several hundred miles east of the Lesser Antilles, which is right here, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Haiti. And then it makes kind of the same directional push as it starts to take more of a northwest flow to it. But I can tell you it moves faster in the GFS. Like, for example, the GFS about 9 days out has this right here. The European about 7 days out has this right here. But look, it's weak. It's not even put together. It's just a blob of showers and storms. So European is not developed. These are all operational runs. You look at the Canadian model, same thing. Just you barely can see it. In fact, the Canadian fully wipes this out. It just disappears. You hardly even know where it is at this point. It would technically be in this area, but it never really fully puts this together. The icon shows the GFS a little bit of love. The icon has this, and here it is, that low pressure. Okay, this is Thursday morning, Thursday 12Z up here. That stands for Thursday morning. Okay, a 10-15 millibar low pressure, appreciable out here. Friday morning, you can see these lines right here circling up. This indicates a weak low pressure, and this continues. And you have a supportive ridge of high pressure out here in the North Atlantic that would support this and will basically prevent this from turning out to sea, especially if it's a weaker system. But you get into Saturday morning, you have a decent tropical wave, okay? And then you get into Sunday morning. I mean, it's at one point like a 10-11 millibar low pressure, okay? And then you go on and take it all the way out to literally 1 week from right now, next Sunday evening, and you have a tropical wave somewhere just outside the Lesser Antilles. So we'll watch this. What we do know, guys, is the sea surface temperatures are supportive for tropical development. I know this is in Celsius. You're thinking, Mitch, why are you showing me this? But most sites only show sea surface temperatures in Celsius. But 28, 29 degrees Celsius is equivalent to basically the low to mid 80s in Fahrenheit. So you got this pocket of even warmer temperatures right here, kind of just east and northeast of the Bahamas and north of the Dominican Republic, that you're pushing the mid to upper 80s in Fahrenheit right in here. But basically to kind of say this in an easy way, the sea surface temperatures are above average, which is an ingredient for tropical development. You can check that off the box. What about dry air? Well, and we're just showing the European, which is always the king of all models in my opinion. This is where we expect some sort of wave to get going, and we'll start off Tuesday morning, which is in a couple days. And what we do know is obviously you got the dry air up here. And you basically just have a pretty broad area of moisture out here in the tropical development that continues to surge across. Like I said, we can call this the tropical Atlantic or the main development region. Either one's fine and valid. But you got, some pretty thick, dry air, right here on top of this moisture bubble. But like I said, that is nothing unusual. It really isn't. It's just how intact is this moisture blob right in here? Can you get some sort of dominant vortice down here in this region, and then all of a sudden get some tropical development? And if I was looking at this, the brown symbolizing dry air, the green symbolizing more moist air, I would say that this is workable as far as dry and moist air. I mean, this is getting into Friday morning. This is a pretty decent kind of cocoon, if you will, of moist air. So, I would say that the ingredients look favorable. I would say you can almost, you're going to be dealing with dry air. That is definitely going to be a limiting factor with any kind of tropical development out here at this time of the year, especially in July. Even though we're getting closer to August, this is always going to be a factor. Usually a lot of that dry air for the Saharan dust really dominates the Atlantic basin out here this time of the year. Okay. But a pretty intact moisture bubble. Now, the next thing you look at is the upper wind pattern. Is it supportive? This is winds at 200 millibars, which is 40,000 feet up in the air. And really, this symbolizes kind of upper level troughs, shear. Basically, where you see the blue areas, that's winds in the upper levels pushing 20, 30, as much as 40 knots. You start to get in the greens, that's pushing 65, 70 knots. And then, of course, you get right in here in this region, and that is extreme shear well over. In the upper levels, that's pushing 80, 90, 100 knots. So down here, if you look right here, we'll start off Wednesday morning. I would say this is somewhat favorable. And yeah, you're not seeing an L pop up down here at all. Okay, but I would say the winds in general are pretty favorable. The upper wind pattern is pretty favorable. You have some light shear definitely going on with the blues showing up here, but in general, I mean, it's not really that bad. I mean, it really isn't. And there's the L that pops up. In fact, you really have almost like an anticyclonic cyclone right in here that actually is helping to ventilate something. But, this is almost a week out. It's hard to know exactly what the upper wind pattern will be way out here in the western areas of the main development region, which would be right in here. But I can tell you, light shear, I think the upper wind pattern is going to be pretty much supportive for at least some kind of development. So you're thinking, well, Mitch, why isn't the models really in agreement? Well, it's a big question. That's why it's not always that you look at model guidance. You got to look at actually what's going on out there. So if we look at the European ensemble, this is what's left over of the signal from 95L. This is the wave behind it. So you got, and the European ensemble makes up 51 members, and I would say that this is also probably the same system right here. So if we go down here, we update this, we zoom in, and this is potentially where some of these members are showing it's going to be a week from today. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. About 22 out of 51 members showing some sort of tropical wave at minimum in this region right here a week from today. So 45% of the members do show something. Okay, you look at the GFS ensemble, the GEFS. Okay, this makes up 21 members. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So, I mean, almost half the members showing something. You got one kind of strongish one right here. So, we'll watch this, guys. Am I concerned about this wave? No. What I am somewhat concerned about is the fact that we continuously have these tropical waves out in the main development region. It's very warm. It's well above average. And it just makes me think, are we due for one of these long track, like Hurricane Hugo kind of scenarios that just makes the full track across the tropical Atlantic and eventually threaten somebody? So we'll continue to watch that. Not going to sound the hype alarm, but so let's talk about the lower 48. Temperatures back home. I know this is something that's going to bore people to sleep, but I think it's important because the heat has been pretty bad across the south central U.S. So this is the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook from July 29th through August 2nd. So we're starting to dip into August. Thank the good Lord, because even though August is typically still hotter than Hades, it's just that much closer to the best time of the year. I've already took off the Friday before Labor Day to make a 5-day weekend out of it, from basically Thursday night all the way to Tuesday morning. I typically do that. I just love Labor Day weekend. Like I said, it's the gateway to the best time of the year. But above average temperatures, if you're wondering what this color of pinkish red is, that is basically a 70 to 80% chance of above average temperatures in this time frame. And this is also including what's the time frame that's in effect from basically between now and the 29th too, which is really what we're going to show most of. But yeah, guys, hot temperatures. I am seeing, and we'll talk about this a little bit some hope for the Northeast, even the Great Lakes region. A little bit of a trough that digs down that could cool you guys down, almost bring a slight hint of fall. Very, very, very subtle hints. Maybe as we enter the first several days of August, we'll see what happens with that. That's why I'm saying below average temperatures up here. So not everybody, but we look at heights up here, which I love this on Tropical Tidbits. I think it shows it very well. The cooler colors is troughing, okay? The warmer colors, especially the dark reds, the reds and the oranges, that is a ridge of high pressure that builds in. And we'll start to move into Sunday. This ridge really begins to flex over the southwest and south central U.S. We still have a bit of troughing. You see this dip right into here. A little bit of cooler than average temperatures, but eventually this gets replaced. And not only does the ridge really move in, it begins to broaden. And what I mean by that is, as we get into, say, Wednesday, the flow almost goes zonal somewhat. Now, there is a little bit of a dip right into here. Zonal meaning just literally just flatlining, meaning you just have a massive broad ridge. So, I mean, look at the low pressures. I mean, they're cruising up here in Canada. That tells you that a massive, basically countrywide, lower 48 wide ridge really builds over the lower 48. Okay, yeah, I mean, it's the strongest right here in this region, right into here where you have the burgundy color, but this really extends all the way into the Northeast. So basically what this means is above average temperatures coming for a lot of people. This continues. We go into late week, begin to this weekend. This just does nothing but continue, even inch a little bit further north. And then as it continues to dominate all the way through the last couple of days of July, then we start to watch a little signal for a dip in the jet stream right up here in the Northeast. This could bring some cooler temperatures into the Northeast. I'm watching this maybe a week out from today, and this helps to maybe bring some relief just in general for the eastern U.S. But the ridge continues to dominate the central and western part of the country, and then we're starting to get about 10 days out at this point, first few days of August, and just this dominating ridge. And this is the EPS too. This is the European Ensemble, which is one of the most accurate model guidance you can look at for anything, honestly. But so you ask, well, Mitch, what does this mean temperature-wise? Well, I look at the National Weather Service, and we can only go out to the, we can only go out to about the 29th. But this is temperatures tomorrow, baking hot. You're gonna get all the way over 100 degrees in areas of Montana tomorrow. You're going to nip over 100 in areas of Wyoming, obviously not the mountainous regions, the lower terrain regions. And I mean, we get into Tuesday, it's hot all the way up, basically to Canada, 90s. I mean, it's getting hot into Minneapolis, 90s. I mean, look where you are on the map, and this is for Tuesday highs off the National Weather Service. We're getting into Wednesday. It's cooling down a little bit in Montana, but still pretty hot. Kansas, blistering hot, almost everybody above 100 degrees. And I mean, this is really hot for the upper Midwest. I mean, 90s, definitely swimming weather all the way up here to the UP of Michigan. Mid to upper 90s in Minneapolis. Just bare, I mean, 90s up into Chicago. Thursday very hot, but you see some cooler temperatures to begin to surge in. A little bit of a backdoor cold front moves in for the UP of Michigan, northern Wisconsin, Minnesota. So this is short-lived. You got to hang on for a few days up here, but it continues to be very hot. Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, everybody down here. But a little bit of cool down could save you guys up here for sure. And if you were to keep on going, we just look at like European highs, high temperatures, and I mean it continues to. Let's see this right here. Continues to look pretty hot. We get into this coming Saturday, next Sunday. Temperatures look a lot better for basically the northern plains and the northern U.S. It looks like you guys cool down temporarily at least. But look at these temperatures. I mean, it looks like it cools back down the latter part of next weekend, but it's baking hot in the south. It looks like a pretty tight boundary into here. Does the heat build back in? Not sure. But I know it's going to be pretty hot over the next few days for sure up here in this portion of the country. Now, For my folks in the eastern U.S., how hot is it going to get? Let's go back to the National Weather Service, and let's go to, no, we don't want to look in Celsius. It'll make it look really nice. But temperatures tomorrow is still pretty pleasant in the eastern U.S., only 80s. And then you start to get hotter, starts to build back into the 90s. And looks like you're going to get some widespread 90s into southern New England. And yeah, it might get really hot as we get into Thursday. Starting to, you know, and this isn't too bad, guys. This is almost just a few degrees above average. But, I mean, this is starting to get pretty hot into the mid-Atlantic. PA, you know, mid to upper 90s is possible. New Jersey is a notorious hot spot for the mid-Atlantic and Northeast. And then I think you'll have one more really hot day for Friday for southern New England, 90s widespread in southern New England. Mid-Atlantic, somebody's going to get into the upper 90s, might flirt with 100 degrees in Maryland, Virginia, somewhere in this region. And then you go from Friday, very hot, to Saturday, cold front moves in, will try to cool you guys back down, and this will be a nice, welcoming air mass for the Northeast. But it's going to build and get pretty hot for the time being. Temperatures compared to average, as you can tell how this ridge works, guys. I mean, look at this, but you can see this cold front coming. This is temperatures up here in the green. That's, 8 to 15 degrees below average. But look at the entire lower 48, except maybe the Pacific Northwest. Temperatures anywhere from 5 to 10 degrees above average, which is pretty darn hot for July standards. And this continues through Thursday, through Friday. It's still well above average for most of everybody. And then Saturday, this is beginning to get beat down somewhat. Okay, you got some cooler than average anomalies starting to ooze south, but it's still looking very hot. A week from today for the Ohio Valley, the Southeast, the Mid-South, the Deep South, everybody in the South, the Midwest, South Central U.S., and the heat looks to be long-lasting potentially for the South in general. But it looks like you definitely get into a cooler than average period for the Northeast for sure. And then I think maybe things somewhat relax as we get a little bit deeper into the first week of August. But I think between now, the rest of July into the first few days of August is going to be pretty relentlessly hot. If you're wondering about severe weather, that's a big question. Typically when you have these ridge setups to build, you get northwest flow events, but just the orientation of the ridge, I don't know what's going to happen with this. It's a tricky setup tomorrow, a pretty huge marginal risk for areas of the Midwest, the upper Midwest, into the Ohio Valley, even an area in the Northeast. And then, you move into day 3, which is for our Tuesday, and you got a marginal risk up here for the Northern Plains. But, guys, I don't really see anything that screams a big severe weather threat. Now, that could change depending on how the ridge builds. But, from day 4 through day 8, it's all predictability too low. But, of course, it's the summer. You typically almost always have somebody that has a slight risk any day of the week in the summertime. So, still went almost 30 minutes. You know how I go, guys. God bless all y'all. Have a great ending to your weekend. And I'll be with you guys tomorrow morning. God bless.